Imagine a party. It is the 1920s. Music is loud, people are dancing. This was the jazz age. America felt alive, full of energy, full of hope. But this party was about to end. A long, hard time was coming. Few saw it. Few were prepared. It was like a storm gathering, a storm that would change everything. This storm was called the Great Depression. The Great Depression was a dark chapter. It was a time of extreme hardship. This hardship spread across the world. It began in late 1929. It lasted through the 1930s. Millions of people lost their jobs, they lost their homes, they lost their savings. Life became a daily struggle for so many. It was a test of human spirit. It was a test of a nation. This was not just an American story, though we often focus there. The waves of this crisis hit countries far and wide. Britain felt it. Germany felt it. Many nations suffered. But in America, the dream felt particularly broken. The land of opportunity suddenly felt barren. The scale of the suffering was immense. It was unlike anything seen before. It reshaped the country. Understanding this time is important. It is not just history. It is about people. It is about resilience. It shows how economies can fail. It shows how societies respond. The Great Depression taught hard lessons, lessons we still learn from today. It reminds us to look out for each other. It reminds us that hope can be found, even in the darkest of times. It is a story we must remember. The Roaring Twenties had a hidden side. Not everyone shared in the prosperity. Many farmers were already struggling. Too much debt was piling up. Some industries were slowing down. These were quiet warnings, but the music of the party was too loud. People believed the good times would last forever. They were mistaken. The foundations were weaker than they seemed. Then came the stock market crash of 1929. It started in October. Black Tuesday was October 29th. Share prices on Wall Street collapsed. Fortunes vanished in hours. This was a huge shock. It was like a bomb going off in the economy. Many people had borrowed money to buy shares. Now those shares were worthless. Panic began to spread like wildfire. This was a major turning point. The crash created widespread fear. People worried about their money. They rushed to the banks. They wanted to withdraw their savings. Long queues formed outside bank doors. But banks did not keep all deposits on hand. They lend money out. They invest it. When too many people wanted their cash at once, banks could not cope. This created a new crisis. Bank failures became common. Thousands of banks across America closed. Their doors were shut for good. When a bank failed, people lost everything. Their life savings disappeared. There was no insurance back then. This destroyed trust in the banking system. It made the economic situation much worse. Money stopped circulating. The economy was freezing up. Businesses suffered. Individuals suffered. Farmers had a tough time in the 1920s. During World War I, they produced more food. They borrowed money for land and machines. After the war, demand from Europe fell. Prices for crops dropped sharply. Farmers could not repay their debts. Many lost their farms. Rural areas were suffering long before the cities felt the full impact. This was a big underlying weakness. Wealth was not shared fairly. A small number of people were very rich. They held a lot of the country's money. Most families had little spare cash. They could not afford to buy many goods. This meant factories could produce more than people could buy. This imbalance was dangerous. An economy needs people to spend money. When they cannot, things slow down. This was a critical flaw. Factories were making too many things. This is called overproduction. New machines made production very efficient. Cars, radios, and appliances rolled off assembly lines. But wages for workers did not rise much. So, ordinary people could not buy all these new goods. Unsold products piled up in warehouses. Companies had to cut production. Then they had to cut jobs. This cycle pulled the economy down. International trade also suffered badly. America put high taxes on imported goods. This was called the Hawley-Smoot Tariff. It was meant to protect American industries, but other countries did the same. They put taxes on American goods. So international trade fell sharply. American businesses could not sell their products abroad. This hurt industries and farms even more. It made the Depression a global problem. When people stopped spending, businesses suffered. Shops saw fewer customers. Factories had fewer orders, so they started to close down. Small businesses went bankrupt first, then larger companies started to fail too. It was like a row of dominoes falling. Each failing business made the situation worse. Each closure meant more jobs were lost. The whole economy was shrinking fast. Unemployment reached terrifying levels. Millions of people lost their jobs. By 1933, about 1 in every 4 workers was unemployed. In some cities, it was even higher. Finding a new job was almost impossible. There were simply no jobs available. People who had worked hard all their lives suddenly had nothing. This was a devastating blow to families. It was a blow to their pride. The psychological impact was enormous. Losing a job brought a sense of shame. Many felt they had failed their families. Hope turned into despair. People felt powerless. The future looked bleak and uncertain. Mental health suffered greatly. Communities saw an increase in stress and anxiety. The fabric of society felt like it was tearing apart. This was an invisible scar of the Depression. Families struggled to survive each day. Paying the rent became impossible for many. Evictions were common. Buying food was a daily challenge. People relied on charity. Bread lines and soup kitchens appeared in cities. These offered a simple meal to the hungry. Children suffered from malnutrition. The American dream had turned into a nightmare for millions. Daily life was a fight for basic needs. Section 5. Dust and Despair. The Human Cost. Homelessness soared during the Depression. People who lost their homes had nowhere to go. They built shantytowns on vacant land. These settlements were made of scrap wood, metal and cardboard. They were called Hoovervilles. This was a bitter name. It blamed President Herbert Hoover for the suffering. These Hoovervilles were symbols of the nation's despair. They showed how far people had fallen. Nature added to the misery in some areas. The Great Plains suffered a terrible drought. This lasted for many years in the 1930s. Poor farming practices had damaged the soil. Strong winds picked up the dry topsoil. This created huge dust storms. They were called black blizzards. The sky would turn dark. Dust covered everything. This environmental disaster was known as the Dust Bowl. Farmers in the Dust Bowl region were devastated. Their crops failed year after year. Their land blew away. Many had to leave their homes. They packed their few belongings into old cars. They headed west, mostly to California. They hoped to find work as migrant farm laborers. These families were often called Okies. This was because many came from Oklahoma. They faced hardship and discrimination on their journey. Children were innocent victims of the Depression. Many suffered from poor nutrition. This affected their growth and health. Schools closed in some areas. This was because there was no money to pay teachers, or children had to work to help their families. The Depression robbed many young people of their childhood. It left a lasting impact on a whole generation. Their dreams were put on hold. Section 6. A Glimmer of Hope. Enter Franklin D. Roosevelt. President Herbert Hoover was in office when the Depression began. He believed in limited government help. He thought businesses and charities should lead the recovery. His efforts were seen as too little. They came too late for many. People grew frustrated and angry. They wanted a leader who would take strong action. They yearned for a change. The country was desperate for new ideas. In 1932, America elected a new president. His name was Franklin D. Roosevelt. He was often called FDR. He came from a wealthy family, but he understood suffering. He had battled polio, which left him unable to walk easily. He promised Americans a new deal. He projected confidence and optimism. His election brought a wave of hope. People felt someone was finally listening. FDR had a remarkable ability to connect with people. He used the radio to speak directly to Americans. These talks were called fireside chats. He explained his plans in simple language. He reassured people that the government was acting. His calm voice and confident tone helped to restore faith. People felt he cared about their struggles. This was incredibly important during such a difficult time. The New Deal was based on 3 main ideas. These were the 3 R's: relief, recovery, and reform. Relief meant help for the unemployed and poor, direct aid to ease suffering. Recovery meant getting the economy working again, helping businesses and agriculture. Reform meant changing things, fixing the problems that caused the Depression. This meant new rules for banks and the stock market. Section 7. The First 100 Days Action and Alphabet Soup. Franklin D. Roosevelt took office in March 1933. He acted immediately. His first few months were astonishing. Congress passed many new laws. This period is known as the first 100 days. It was a time of bold experiments. The government was trying new things. It was trying to stop the economic collapse. It was a whirlwind of activity in Washington. One famous New Deal program was the Civilian Conservation Corps. This was the CCC. It gave jobs to young, unemployed men. They worked on environmental projects. They planted trees. They built trails in national parks. They fought soil erosion. The CCC provided food, shelter, and a small wage. It helped families and the environment. It gave young men purpose and skills. Another key program was the Agricultural Adjustment Act. This was the AAA. It aimed to help farmers. Farm prices were too low because of overproduction. The AAA paid farmers to produce less. This was controversial. Some people questioned destroying crops when many were hungry, but the goal was to raise prices. This would help farmers earn more money. It was a bold attempt to fix a big problem. To restore trust in banks, the FDIC was created. This was the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. It insured bank deposits up to a certain amount. If a bank failed, people would not lose all their savings. This was a crucial reform. It encouraged people to put their money back into banks. This helped banks to operate normally again. It stabilized the financial system. It was a very important step. Section 8, pushing further, the Second New Deal. The First New Deal brought some relief. It started the process of recovery. But the Great Depression was a deep crisis. It was not over yet. Millions were still unemployed. Hardship continued for many families. President Roosevelt knew more needed to be done, so he launched a new wave of programs. This was known as the Second New Deal. It began around 1935. The Second New Deal focused more on long-term reforms. It also aimed to help more groups of people. It addressed some of the criticisms of the First New Deal. Some said the first programs did not go far enough. Others worried about the growing power of government. But Roosevelt felt he had a mandate from the people. He wanted to build a more secure society. He pushed forward with new ideas. A major part of the Second New Deal was the Works Progress Administration. This was the WPA. It became the largest New Deal agency. The WPA created millions of jobs. People built roads, bridges, schools, and hospitals. But it did more than just construction. The WPA also employed artists, writers, actors, and musicians. It funded murals, plays, and historical research. It helped preserve culture. Perhaps the most important law was the Social Security Act of 1935. This was a landmark piece of legislation. It created a system of old age pensions. Workers and employers paid into a fund. This provided income for retired people. It also provided unemployment insurance, and it gave aid to disabled people and to families with dependent children. This created a vital safety net for Americans. Section 9. Lessons learned, the legacy of an era. Did the New Deal end the Great Depression? Historians have different views. The New Deal certainly helped millions of people. It eased suffering and brought hope. But unemployment remained high through the 1930s. It was really World War II that fully ended the Depression. The massive government spending for the war created jobs. It boosted industrial production. This finally pulled America out of the slump. However, the New Deal fundamentally changed America. It greatly expanded the role of the federal government. Before the Depression, people did not expect much help from Washington. The New Deal showed that government could act. It could try to solve big economic problems. It created a social safety net. This meant support for the unemployed, the elderly, and the needy. This was a lasting shift. The long-term impact on American society is undeniable. People came to expect the government to step in during crises. The New Deal programs set precedents. Many, like Social Security and the FDIC, still exist today. They continue to protect people. The Depression also led to better understanding of economics. It showed the dangers of unregulated markets. It highlighted the need for financial stability. Reflecting on the Great Depression is crucial. It teaches us about economic vulnerability. It shows the importance of compassion and community. It reminds us that hardship can strike anyone. The resilience of people during that time is inspiring. They faced immense challenges with courage. The lessons from that era are still relevant. They help us build a fairer and more secure future. It is a story of pain, but also of progress.